wanted to take just a second to talk with you guys about something that I fondly refer to as the usual suspects. We talk all the time on the show about how important it is to know the function of a behavior. And I mentioned earlier when we did our word for the day, elopement, that we need to know what the function of the behavior is. If a child is running away, we want to know why. What is the paycheck that they're getting for it? If we talk about somebody who is biting, then the first thing that we always want to know is what's the function of the behavior? What is the child or the individual getting out of the process of biting? So we'll talk about what's the function of the behavior. You can think of it as the paycheck for the behavior. And it can be very confusing, and we've talked before on the show about how you want to know what happened right before the behavior, what does the behavior look like, and what was the consequence for the behavior. All of that is super duper important for finding out what the function of the behavior is. But I will give you sort of the cheat code for finding out what the function for a behavior is there are 4 usual suspects. That for most behaviors that a child will engage in, there's 4 reasons that it's probably has something to do with one of these 4 things, and it might be a mixture of 2 or more of the different suspects, but let's talk about what they are. That one of the main reasons why people in general, not just children, but why people engage in a behavior is that it gets attention. That's one of the main reasons why people will do things. We want to remember about attention is that it isn't always for positive attention. Attention when you are in desperate need of attention, it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. And if you doubt that for a second, I encourage you to pick up a tabloid paper and you will see adults who don't have autism engaging in very challenging behavior for attention. You know what they say about there's no bad publicity? It's the same thing with attention. Really, when you want attention, there's no such thing as bad attention. So when somebody says to you, why do you think your child did this? What happened before? And is it a possibility that they did it for attention? You say no, because the consequence was that they got yelled at. Why would anybody do something so that they would get yelled at? Believe me, when our kids need attention, getting yelled at fits the bill. And as a former classroom teacher, I can tell you that 9 times out of 10 in a classroom, when a child is engaging in challenging behavior over and over and over again, there is at least some component in a classroom that it's attention. Go spend some time in class and see the kid who constantly is interrupting, who throws things at other people, and then the teacher says, Johnny, don't do that, right? And it fills their bucket. So that's one big reason, attention, but it's not the only reason. Sometimes kids in particular will engage in challenging behavior to get access to someone or something. They want something. I want it, and so I'm going to engage in this challenging behavior. The kid who bites the kid next to them, because when he bites that child, the child drops the ball that they were holding on to, and then they get the ball. Yay, I got the ball. And you think to yourself, they only got it for a second because then they got yelled at about biting and the ball got taken away. They still got it for a second. Sometimes they're engaging in challenge behavior to get access to someone. Maybe it's that they want mom, so they bite the babysitter so that mom gets called in from the other room or gets called from wherever she is so that she has to be there. So getting access to someone or something. Perfect example, grocery store. Why do kids always tantrum in that little section right when you get to the checkout? Because it's packed full of all that toys and candy that the kids want, and if they start to engage in a fuss saying, I want that, they know that it's a busy time for you and that chances are you're going to give it to them to quiet them down. They wanted access to that thing, so they're going to do whatever they have to do to get it. But again, attention and getting access to something, those are not the only 2. Another thing is to escape something. They want to get away from someone or something. So if the child doesn't want to take a bath and what they do is run away, and you say, but they got in the bath 3 minutes later when I chased them down and put them in the bath. Yes, but they got a 3-minute respite from that bath. Think about in the moment, what did they get out of? I watch my son, and he will move heaven and earth to get out of starting the homework. He knows he's going to have to do do it. But he will do anything to try to delay that moment from happening. That's still escape. That delay is still escape. And I always use the example, how many of us wait until April 15th to do our taxes? And and then how many people after that fill out the extension? Because we just don't want to, we know we're going to have to do it eventually, right? We get it, but we just don't want to have to go through that. And any 5-minute respite that we can have from it, we'll take. I fit in that category. Okay, and then we move on to the fourth suspect, which is automatic reinforcement. There's something about the behavior that fulfills something on the inside, whether it fulfills something physically or mentally, we may not know, but there's something about it that is either soothing or stimulating or feels good in some way, shape, or form. So for our kids who rock, there's an element of that that's going to be automatically reinforcing. There's something about it that feels good. Think about the executives who click their pens. Think about the girls who constantly are twirling their hair, right? There's something about it that fulfills a need. When we look at the function of a behavior and we're able to plug in which one of these 4 usual suspects is it, or which 2 or which 3 are they, then once we know what the function of the behavior is, then we can start to combat it in a way that makes sense. Because if what the child needs is attention, we want to find a way to give them attention for things that they do that are good. We want to keep filling that bucket and give them attention. If they're doing it to get access to something, we no longer want to give them access to that thing for engaging in that behavior, but we want to give them the skills to find a functionally correct way that doesn't get in the way of other things so that they can ask for that thing and get it without having to engage in the behavior. If they're trying to escape something, we want to give them the communication skills to be able to say, I need a break, I can't do it yet, and to earn time that they can wait and do it on their terms, understanding that they're still going to have to do it and that they're not going to get out of doing it for doing this challenging behavior. And when it's automatic reinforcement, we want to find a way to fulfill whatever that need is in a way that doesn't get in the way of them being happy and productive. For the executive that clicks the pen, as long as it's not driving the people who work with him crazy and it helps them to come up with the ideas, we all accept it, right? There are ways that we can deal with stress, with being understimulated, being overstimulated, that we all engage in on a daily basis. We just want to find a way that doesn't prevent us from getting to production, to being productive people. Same thing for all of our kids on the autism spectrum. So when you're looking at a challenging behavior from now on, stop and ask yourself, is it possible that it's one of these 4 usual suspects? Ask yourself, what happened before? What happened during the behavior? What happened afterwards? And which one of these things do I think that the individual got? If you want to know more information about how to find the function of a behavior, you can go to skills. You can go to skillsforautism.com and look at their skills BIP builder. It's also under skillsbipbuilder.com. They have something called a CIFA, which asks you a bunch of questions to help you to know what the function of a behavior may be. But usually it's going to have some element of those 4 usual suspects. When we know these things, we can get to the progress.